Hello again, and today I have a probably meaty commentary. This one, if you are conservative, would probably interest you. And if you're liberal, or as I really should be saying, if you are progressive, if you are on the left staunchly, this might also concern you too. But before I start, I just want to give a small channel update. I have massive amounts of raw commentary subjects to be going through, and this is why in the past I have kind of alluded to further commentaries. So I am in the midst of sort of watching most of my commentaries and making sure that I get all of the topics that I did discuss back into my list so that I am remembering stuff and I am not just saying stuff on camera, because to be honest, that's like one of my biggest pet peeves just for myself if I talk about something and I don't follow through. And the second thing is that I am officially announcing, as of I believe Saturday the 19th, I have gone through the topics that I will be covering in December. December will be kind of put on hold as far as regular kind of content, because I am going to dedicate nearly every day of the month up until the 23rd to exclusively Star Wars content. This is the reason why, despite all of the current event stories, the big one being this week that the reshoots that are currently underway were apparently 75% of the film, and also the reason for the delay of the Force Friday trailer. It is currently Monday as I record this, like very early in the morning, like nearly 3 o'clock a.m. And later in the day, we're going to have Monday Night Football in the trailer, and I might just, blast on all social media my response to this trailer as completely raw as possible and not put that on my personal Facebook for once. Beyond that, the final days of the year and of the decade are going to be focused on the best entertainment of the decade and maybe a cultural video on the 31st. I have not totally set that in stone. I am just gathering my lists for that kind of stuff. The movie and the television one I think are pretty done, but the other three subjects, that being music, video games, and comics, all kind of need work and need a little bit of research before I can totally wrap that up in a nice little bow. But that all being said, I've spent like 3 minutes in a preamble, and I really need to get into this commentary because today I'm going into why I hate neoconservatism, neocons, what used to just be conservatism, but is now considered staunchly neoconservatism. There are a lot of subjects and a lot of reasons as to why to hate on neoconservatism. I will bring up lots of people to also be hating on, like Ben Shapiro, Milton Friedman, Bill Kristol, Anna Navarro. And before I get into my points, I just would like to state that if you are conservative, you more than likely know this, but these people are not conservative. These people are straight up the original grifters, in that they will say all kinds of shit that will get them in the news and the headlights, get their books out there in the world and, get their quote-unquote ideas out to the people. But so many of the members of what I call the dissident right, the true right, have seen through these people's lies. They're garbage. In fact, I believe the election of Donald J. Trump was just in the primary a flat-out rejection of neoconservatism, and to say that the Republican Party of the United States of America no longer belongs to you old fucks. So let's get into these topics. The big one for why I hate neoconservatism is their endless lust for war, but not to really go fight it themselves. This is as a result of the war on terror being a grand master plan of people like Richard Wolfowitz and Dick Cheney and Gin Rummy himself, Donald Rumsfeld, in that they wanted to essentially fight these territorial conflicts in the Middle East for the sole purpose of acquiring more oil fields. And this was a big contention in the left in the 2000s. They were very cognizant of the fact that Dick Cheney was the former CEO of Halliburton when he wasn't, working for the office of Richard Nixon. And beyond all that, the neoconservative argument always is to be a war hawk, push to send American troops into any fucking area into armed conflict. I believe psychologically this is because, primarily the neoconservatism, or the neoconservative, God, people are not an ideology. The neoconservative is a boomer, and just in the age range, not in the ideology. And so the neoconservative, as being a boomer, sees the world as a playground in which to, maybe stop armed conflict, but they consider themselves the world police because we are the world hegemon. And the next topic we're going to get into explains why this is so hypocritical, but with their lust for war, they just brazenly say that we need to be in every fucking conflict. We need to get our nose into everybody's business around the planet. But yet they will never send themselves, their family, their friends into these war zones. And if they do, they, don't even fucking bat an eye if, their son signs up for war. Fucking, their neighbor's kid. They're like, fuck them. You want to do this, go right ahead. But this just, advances my agenda. And it gets me rock hard for war! But just to, close this point out, their lust for war is ultimately what causes them to not be liked. It is, like I said when I started, the big contention against neoconservatism is their desire for endless war. And fortunately for all of us, it's their downfall. Now, the second point, which I think is just as, if not more important, is their obsession with Milton Friedman's writings on economics and his more globalist takes. Now, Milton Friedman is a known famous economist. I think he might be alive. I didn't really do the research for that part. But Milton Friedman is the grand architect of what we now see with the Chinese Communist Party, in that Milton Friedman believed that if you introduced capitalism into a communist country, over time they would become more capitalist. We do not see a more clear example of this fucking awful lesson in the fact that China is directly using our capitalist systems, our corporatist structures, to spread and promote communism throughout their region. And if they are lucky enough, they will spread it across the world, and capitalism will have failed. And then they will implement full-blown communism, just like Mao's Cultural Revolution of 66 and 67. And this, to me, when I see them going off about free market economics and shit like this, and yet they are still like, oh yeah, we love the fact that there's so much American business going into China. The whole fact of the matter when it comes to neoconservatives and economics is that they are so blindingly free market that they don't believe in regulation. They don't believe in, the fact that we should not do business with our enemies. Like, just fucking galaxy brain takes. And above all, we have these issues on the planet that capitalism has not solved. And why is that? It's not because we haven't gone into there and blown the shit out of them, with our nukes. It's not that capitalism doesn't work. It's that we are not promoting Americanism, nationalism, capitalist ideology in these countries. We are just sending our money And that is the stupidest fucking shit I've ever heard in my life. You know, the whole point of fighting communism in the 50s was to stop the spread of communism. And these people think that by sending our money, we are stopping the spread of communism. And nothing could be fucking farther from the truth. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to start talking about people like Ben Shapiro, and more specifically Jacob Wall, because on his Telegram recently, I've seen him going off about like, oh, I didn't really see that movie, or, you know, if you play video games, you're a fucking beta, while I stroke my fucking quote-unquote handsome face with my elaborately long nose. But, these points overall, even with the fucking little jibes at him, show the neocons' complete refusal to fight cultural battles. You know, the fact that you're just saying, oh, I don't play video games, while making fun of people that do play video games, shows that you're not in it to win it. And, you know, like, this channel primarily deals with the cross-sections of politics and culture. And it's because I believe that you can improve your political standing if you are backed by culture. Because, as Andrew Breitbart once said famously, and you're going to hear this so much on this fucking channel, I'm sorry, I might as well just start clipping it for you next. Politics is downstream from culture. And this is so just easily, visibly true. And the fact that the neocon refuses to engage in the cultural battleground is how people like Milo Yiannopoulos got so big. And why they, and by they, I mean the Reagan Battalion, a neocon outlet that went from Evan McMullin, former independent candidate for the U.S. president in 2016. It went from his little shill group to now just a normie con fucking conservative outlet for Donald Trump. And to me, what I find completely ridiculous is that these people destroyed Milo. They led him, or they started what was the beaten path for Milo to just fuck up left and right by trying to destroy his career. And, you know, leftists want to say, oh, fucking cancel culture works. We canceled Milo. It's like, bitches, no, you didn't. You couldn't fucking stop him. It took the neocons, people you supposedly hate, to stop the cultural force that was Milo Yiannopoulos in the greatest year of the decade, 2016. Now, the next point might get me in trouble on YouTube, but I really do not give a shit because it is the truth. Neoconservatives have a dual loyalty to Israel. Most of it is because the majority of them are Jewish or strictly religious. Specifically, Ana Navarro comes to mind on this aspect because she is a Hispanic Catholic, so she wants the preservation of Israel. But yeah, the dual loyalty shit just fucking is one of my big contentions with Ben Shapiro. The second is that he's milquetoast. The third is, again, he is purely ideological, and I cannot stand neoconservatism for the points that I'm going to go through in this video. So I'm going to save the Ben Shapiro talk for this. I'm sorry. It's just, this topic is so uncomfortable to me that I'm not going to even say it again for fear of reprisal. Because this kind of dual loyalty should really get you sent back to the country of origin that you so desperately cling to for political favor. I mean, it's like you guys are acting like lobbyists for that specific state. And for me, when I see this kind of dual loyalty, it's just like, it's so brazenly anti-American to not be America first, like Donald Trump says. And there's so many people in his cabinet who are so loyal to this specific nation, and it undermines his cabinet and his presidency at every turn possible. You know, it's like, oh, we got to protect the Kurds. Why? For, the specific state. Why do we got to go into the Middle East? Oh, it's to protect our greatest ally, if you get my drift. And no, it is not Saudi Arabia, Tulsi Gabbard. It is definitely not Saudi Arabia. If you name them, like I did earlier, at least once, you're going to get called more than a Russian puppet. So that's my warning to her, to good old mommy. And yeah, I'm going to get off this topic as fast as I can so that the algorithm cannot try to fuck me. But the next point, which I think I might have to elaborate on quite a bit, is that despite their intellectualism, their egg-headedness, the neoconservative and their degrees, their, pedigrees, their entire state of being in their knowledge is now completely irrelevant in the modern world. With the routing of neoconservatism in the 2016 GOP primary, the Republican primary specifically, neoconservatism lost. And yet these people are still going on CNN, MSNBC, fucking Real Time with Bill Maher. Bill Maher is so kind of paused in his thinking that he considers them real conservatives. Whereas if you were to have a true conservative, like not a representative, not a fucking Fox News pundit, like someone fucking real, like Bannon or Milo or Cernovich or, dude, literally like anyone in the new right, alt-right, the merchants, fucking, they would literally just start their rebuttals or retorts with this one simple question. And it is, what have you conserved? And these people would fucking just either A, chimp out, or B, start stuttering because they don't conserve anything. In fact, they just roll over when the left comes knocking. It's like, oh, you said a bad thing. And immediately, like, they're typing the fucking apology on their computer, their fucking old-ass dusty typewriter from the 1960s. Because these people are so weak, Part of the reason why I believe that John McCain lost is because of the weakness of neoconservative thought. Specifically, people like Bill Kristol, who fucking, just like, oh, I'm gonna pen all these screeds about why we need to go to war with Iraq, but, like, that's his brain, like, because there's nothing else. There's nothing else in that fucking egghead. It's just a goddamn yolk. We gotta break it. So yeah, this is my issue on their complete lack of knowledge to combat the modern world using their ideology. It's because we have left them in the dust and they don't know what to do with themselves. So instead, they are now just never Trumpers. They are just members of the resistance. And if progressives were actually fucking smart about the people who were in their movements, they would, smell them out pretty quickly and just, if they actually gave a shit about not being for war, they would take all of their old writings and just fucking bury these people because they're so in love with cancel culture, and it would actually benefit people if neoconservatism just died. My final point in this list is something that I should have probably put closer to the top, but they're only elitist for capital gain, for personal gain. So these people love to dress well, love to have an erudite way of speaking. They want to elucidate on every fucking dumb topic on Twitter or when they're brought onto the news. And yeah, they want to be like, regular journalists who are like, oh, we're a media class. We're protected. Yeah, man. We're just like minorities, man. But it's not for any genuine reason. And I really emphasize that beat because these people are not genuine. Most of this commentary, I have specifically stated reasons as to why neoconservatism failed. It ultimately fails because they are the original grifters. They are the original book hawks. They are not, like Alex Jones with his fucking pills and his water filters, because they find that beneath them. And that's their elitism. Instead, they want to peddle you their next book. Like, oh God, like Ben Shapiro has recently been doing this. But because he's the more modernized neoconservative, he'll do what everyone on the quote-unquote merchant right would do. He's just adapting to their tactics because it's more modern. So he'll fucking shill for Audible. He'll shill for Blue Apron. He'll shill for Purple mattresses. And while some of those products are great, do you really want Ben Shapiro to be getting more fucking money, more fucking accolades? Part of the reason why I think the conservative movement is getting nearly fucked to death is because they're propping up Ben Shapiro as this sort of like fucking great conservative folk hero. And Charlie Kirk as well, man. The two of them are just modern neocons. And Charlie Kirk, you see this through a lot of his hypocrisy, like stating shit like, I don't play identity politics. But meanwhile, well, please welcome to the stage all these great, young, black, conservative leaders of the future. And then he'll start clapping like a fucking circus seal because he has a fucking jungle fever fetish. But with Ben Shapiro, again, it's adapting those tactics. It's saying what is politically expedient to gain such a wide audience. Crowder, I think, also falls into this, but I really don't have all of the information that I would need to go after him the way I would go after Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk. And if you do want someone to go after them, I would immediately recommend you watch the Revenge of the Cis clips on their channel. Like, literally just type in Revenge of the Cis, CIS, yeah, like that, and Steven Crowder, and you'll get a whole bunch of fucking great videos of them covering the lies, the fraud tactics of Steven Crowder and his mug club and his fucking, like, oh, YouTube is trying to shut me down even though I have complete access to the corporate infrastructure of YouTube through my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond. Like, and I'm sorry I'm, like, squeaking in my chair so much, but I start bouncing when I get mad about these fucking issues. And it's because people like Ben Shapiro are the reason why conservatism is starting to go back on the decline and why we are continuing this gay political pendulum that should have been made irrelevant by now. I mean, you see it in the data that the young people are not down with progressivism the way that millennials are down with it, the way that the Gen X is certainly fucking down with it. And yet, you have eggheads, you have these intellectuals, you have these neocons infiltrating our movement, our dissident movement against establishment thought. And why? It's because we're letting these people in. When I see fucking members of the Phantom Menace being like, oh, I like Ben Shapiro, he's so fucking epic, man. And like, see Ethan Van Piver on Daily Wire, it's like, oh, so I guess that's what a fucking JFK Republican is. Yeah, Ethan Van Piver, why don't you fucking Ethan Van Piver it up over there with your fucking neocon buddies. In conclusion, neoconservatism has been finished. It is so close to just being irrelevant and dead as an ideology. And because we let people like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk into the mainstream conservative movement, because let's be honest here, Trump is now mainstream. There is no fucking fringe thing about him anymore. He's about as normie-con as you can get, especially when it comes to our greatest ally and some other key conservative issues. Specifically when the El Paso and the Dayton shootings happened, he immediately blamed video games. Like, come on, dude, that's like something out of the fucking 2000s playbook. So he's not really campaign Trump, and to expect that from him right now is a little bit naive. However, I am willing to, in the future, accept the fact that campaign Trump might become regular Trump, because usually when a president gets their second term, the fucking gloves come off. So we'll see what happens on that regard. However, if by letting people like Ben Shapiro into the movement, you are effectively subverting the movement into just becoming neoconservatism 2.0, letting the floodgates open for, just intellectualism and Milton Friedman economics and a just gay lust for war. And, just a complete fucking giving up on cultural issues. Because you hear Ben Shapiro talk about these cultural issues, and it's like, Dude, I could get this from a movie podcast. Where is the cultural stake for conservatism in culture? You know, why aren't you really going after the people responsible for what makes entertainment so completely garbage right now? Why? Because you inevitably don't care. And just like most of these issues, you really don't give a shit. It's just political expedience. And so to all you neocons, all of you fucking eggheads, all you losers, all you dumbass intellectuals who have no value to the modern world, tread lightly because people can smell you out.